Today, I'm very pleased to welcome Lianne Johnson to the Pocket Mastermind podcast. Lianne's co-founder of Oxfordshire-based app development company Element6. I'm really good to have you here. So welcome, Lianne.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you fairly recently set up Element6, not a huge amount of time ago. So what led you to deciding to take that route?
Really, it was after having two babies and having a very hectic career in sales for sort of about 13 years. I decided that, just working in sales with me and my husband doing the same job, it just wasn't going to work with a family of two young children in tow. So I took a little break from my career. And then as my son sort of got into nursery, I thought, right, I need to be my own boss. I still really enjoyed doing the sales side of it and the marketing side. But for me, it was like, I need to be my own boss. I need to run my own schedule and work around the family. So nearly 2 years ago now, we decided to start Element6 with myself and my father, Colin. And that was sort of one of the main reasons. And then going into apps and why I decided to go into that type of market was because it was such a huge growing market within itself. There's now over 6 million apps worldwide, and it's only going to get bigger. And it's one of the fastest growing markets in technology. But we were really, really shocked at how app developers weren't really helping small businesses. The big giant retailers and companies out there were being able to afford to spend 20 to 100k on an app, but that is just unobtainable for most small businesses. So our main focus from the start was helping UK-based small businesses with an app and how we do that sort of cheaply, and we can sort of talk a bit more about that.
Mm-hmm. So how did you kind of land on there was the gap in the market for the smaller business?
We were obviously calling other local app developers and just being pretending that we were a small business and saying, okay, yeah, we really want to make an app for our cafe or our salon or our business, and they were first of all quite uninterested to try and help us when we mentioned that we were a small business. And then the figures they were shouting around was anything from 20k upwards, which, would just be unobtainable for most small businesses. And then we started looking into the sort of development side of it. And there's two types of apps. So there is a native app, and that is an app that you download on the App Store, whether that be iOS or Android. Or there's a new trend of apps called the progressive web app. And this is an app that is hosted all in the cloud. So you don't have to download it onto your phone. You don't have to pay then Apple or Android any of their fees yearly, or for any changes you have to pay every time you update it. So it's a new trend. It's very big already in America and the rest of Europe. But the UK are quite slow adopters to new trends. So this is something we're trying to push out to the smaller businesses in the UK, to get them on board and onto the app stores. And the advantage with a progressive web app is that you don't then have to download all of the data onto your phone, which is quite a big thing for millennials and the younger generation, because they've got limited memory and storage, and they want to be probably putting more TikToks and music on their phones than apps. But with 90% of the time of people using their smartphones, they're using an app. So, it's really key that an app is accessible, and all you need is to go through the browser, and it's just all stored in the cloud.
It kind of makes perfect sense. And, like you were saying, small businesses, they just don't have the level of cash to develop an app. And yet so many businesses would probably benefit from having that direct interaction, kind of frictionless interaction with their customers. So what was the starting point for you then to kind of get the business off the ground?
So the starting point was us doing a lot of training within ourselves. Colin, my business partner, is a lot more technical than me, so he had already made some sort of quite simple apps beforehand. So for me, I was actually learning how to develop apps myself. So there was a lot of training in the background for that.
How did you find
Um,
it?
Challenging with two small children as well.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, but it was interesting. You know, it was fun to actually use my brain in a different way
Hmm.
and learn a new technology. So yeah, there was a lot of training on my part, a lot of doing the wrong thing before you learn to do the right thing. But you know, I think that's the whole point of it. The first app was
Hmm.
like, oh my god, this is terrible to look at, but I was quite proud. You know, it was a simple app, but it did what it needed to do. So there was a lot of back and forth. One of our first customers was brilliant. You know, we were very truthful with her from the start. We said, you know, this is the first time we've probably started to develop this and the business within itself. So she was, you know, she was very good with us, and she waited until we've got it completely right before waiting to launch the app. And that's the nice thing about a small business, because they understand the mechanics
Hmm.
and the background of everything having to sort of take time. And we thought, you know, naively that we'd be banging out one app every month. You know, it was going to be that easy. But in actual fact, it takes about 6 months. There's a lot of toing and froing and changing our minds, and, you know, a lot of work in the background with it as well. So there's been a lot of patience, but, you know, but it's gone well within sort of the first 2 years. You know, we've got a few under our belt now,
Hmm.
and the more you do, obviously, the easier it gets.
Yeah, what have you learned about the process, and what have you adapted since the
Um,
first one that, you know,
yeah,
maybe save some time or something?
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously just knowing the skills and the programming in the background. The hard thing is that we're not just focusing on one sector. So we're not just looking at beauty salons or restaurants.
Hmm.
We've got lots of different customers that are coming to us. So we're really having to adapt each time, because they want different features and different things for the app itself. And obviously there's no, you know, one app fits all
Hmm.
for any small business. You know, they might just be wanting an app to give you free information, or they might be wanting the app to, you know, make a sale or make a booking. You know, one of the key features is loyalty. You probably go to most coffee shops now, or beauty salons, or even play barns, and you get these loyalty card apps
Hmm.
that you get your stamp every time, you know, and they're trying to keep you coming back time and time again. But I've collected so many. I've probably got about 8 in my wallet, and I can't be bothered half the time to rummage through and look for them. And one of the great features on the app is that you can do that. So not only does the customer always have their phone with them, but it actually gives the company or the business, you know, a view into how many times that customer has been to them, how many times, you know, they've spent money with them, how often they come in, etc. And then you can really target market that customer to say, you know, just come in one more time and you get something for free.
Hmm.
And you don't need to be a coffee shop for that. You could be a business coach. You could be running, you know, 6 different seminars. And if you've seen that customer's been to 1 or 2, you give them loyalty points to hope they come back, you know, and spend more with you. And it's just that, keeping that loyalty, and also, you know, having that competitive edge against, you know, your other local businesses or local competitors.
Have you found have you found different clients have wanted to be more involved through the process than others, or?
Yeah, yeah. Our first client was very, you know, we'll go with your views and your designs, and she was very easygoing. And then some of the other ones have been very, yeah, demanding, shall we say, with what they want, you know. But that helps also, because they've got that view of what they want it to look like, you know, with pictures and images or text, etc. Which is almost easier in a way when you're actually told exactly what you want, rather than, oh, maybe this will work or maybe that will work, and
Hmm.
then you're going back and forth 10 times doing the same thing over and over again. So yeah, but again, I think that's something within time we will get better at, in
Hmm.
terms of, you know, how we present to the customer, or, you know, option A or option B maybe.
What do you think have been the biggest challenges in the first, you know, couple of years of setting up?
Um, Personally, for myself, getting my head back into business.
Hmm.
um, And then for the business itself, I think the challenges have been working with small businesses. You know, they've obviously got, you know, unless they're doing very, very well for themselves, they're going to have limited cash flow at certain points. And obviously with this whole virus, you know, we worry now where small businesses are going to be this time next year. Luckily, some of our clients have done very well in this crisis, shall we say. One client is a early learning specialist, so she's done brilliantly well, because, you know, all these parents at home thinking, what the hell do I do with my kids for 12 hours a day? You know, her business is booming. But another one of our salons, you know, obviously she's not been open for 3 months, so that's been a challenge within itself, thinking, God, are they still going to be here in 6 months' time? But, you know, fingers crossed, I suppose.
What's been the best part so far of starting your own business? Has it lived up to the ambition yet? Or is it you still catching up?
Yeah, I think the nicest part for me at the minute is that it's just working for myself and it's working around my family. There's been obviously stressful times, but, you know, it's been only stressful because I'm just trying to work it around the family. I've not had, you know, your sales manager calling up shouting at you because you've not hit your number. You know, that was a horrible stress at the time. So now I'm only shouting at myself internally rather than somebody else shouting at me. Yeah.
Sometimes that can be just as bad, can't it?
Well, yeah. But yeah, it's just nice that you're working on your own terms.
It's different though, isn't it? It's a big transition to go into suddenly. I think one of the hardest things is switching off, because you know there's stuff to be done,
yes,
and there's no one else to do it. And
no.
So if you sit down and do something else, in the back of your mind continuously, there's always a list of 150 different other jobs that you could be doing.
Yeah.
And how have you found that, and especially with the kids being at home all the time at the moment?
Yeah, and sometimes it's just like the admin, you know, it's just like, right, I can focus on this project, I can focus on getting this project done, but then it's all the stuff in the background that I don't think about. And then you're almost going back on yourself 3 months trying to work out, you know, your expenses or your marketing budgets or your strategy, or
how have you managed to keep on top of all that stuff, particularly now, I think, because you know the lines between work time and home time are even more blurred than they ever were. So
one of the things that's helped actually is going to sort of regular networking meetings and BNIs and things like that, and talking to other business owners. That's really helped, because people are always really you know, happy to give out free advice, or even sit there and listen and go, yeah, I've got the same problem, but, you know, I've heard so and so could help, or, you know, just talking to other business owners helps sometimes. And it's a bit like mental health, isn't it? Just talking actually helps. It doesn't probably help you actually do the task, but you know, getting in.
There's a blockage though, doesn't it? It can
a
blockage.
Some perspective of, okay, what's really urgent? What do I really need to do today, this week? You know, what can hold off until next week? But the nice thing is that I do have my father, Colin, on board as well. So he has another business as well, but you know, he's got a few more years of knowledge in his head and is a bit more structured than me. So we do bounce each other, you know, quite nicely.
Have you had you worked with him before in the past?
No. God.
So it's quite a brave move.
And if you'd met me as a teenager, I would have bet you £1 million I never would have worked with my dad. So you know, didn't really get on that well as me as a teenager. But you realise as you get older, you're just the same person.
Exactly. When you hear your parents coming out of your own mouth at some point.
But no, touch wood, it's been fine at the minute. We've not had any major fallouts, so but no, it's good just to have one other person in the business to bounce ideas off. You can come up with an amazing idea at 2 a.m. in the morning, and you say in the morning, they're like, no.
Damn, that kept me up all night. I'm sure that was a winner. What do you think you've learnt most from your dad so far?
What have I learnt most? I think I've learnt more about sort of the business and the structure of it. and trying to plan ahead a bit more. I think I was thinking very much what was right in front of me. So actually planning stages of the different elements of the business, you know, and not just from month to month. He was, you know, quite good at strategizing what we needed to do and when we needed to do it. You know,
I think that's important, isn't it? Because a lot of businesses, small business in particular, kind of miss that step just through not really being aware that the step exists. It's kind of like, I've got an idea, action,
yes,
rather than the road. And so what have you really, what
yeah.
have you done to kind of set milestones, I guess?
I mean, that's similar to us in a way, because we got our first client before we'd even set up our own website. You know, we'd
Wow.
literally talked about it through word of mouth, through friends and family. And by chance, one guy said, "Oh, I've got this lady. She's got about 40,000 followers on Instagram. She really wants an app. Would you talk to her? She's one of my friends." We're like, "Yeah, of course," you know. So we went off and talked to her and got the deal. But you know, we were very plain with her. We were like, "We've not even got our business set up. We've not got a website. You know, we're still learning sort of the back end of the app stuff." But you know, she was brilliant and very similar to us. She was running around with a toddler in tow, and she loved the fact that we were probably both in the same boat. So yeah, we were chasing our tail for the first year, trying to actually do all the steps that we should have done really, you know, way before we even spoke to a client. But the nice thing was that, you know, we got that sale and we made some money in the first year, which was great.
Yeah, it's good. Not the easiest thing to do, is it?
No.
Trying to track people down, and at least you managed to get a bit of momentum running
Yeah.
before this came along as well, which is good,
Yeah.
because I know so many people that decided at the start of this year was going to be the year to
Yes.
strike out on their own, and then the worst of
Yeah.
the worst can happen. So
Yeah,
that's what you do.
hopefully. I mean, things seem to be picking up now. I think with there's light at the end of the tunnel with retail shops opening, and you know, hopefully there's
Yeah,
a few set dates now of actually things getting back to some type of normality. So I'm hopeful there is light for small
it does
business
seem to
now.
be. That's for
Yeah.
certain. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and I think people are still buying. You know, I think
yeah,
the first couple of weeks it was like, oh god, you know, everything's stopped, everything's grinded to a halt, and then small businesses were very quick to, you know, turn their heels and say, okay, well, we can do something different, or we can do it in different ways. You know, whether that be a restaurant and they're pre-ordering food, or you know, a beauty salon, so they're just selling their products that they've got into the shops. You know, they were all really good, being able to just turn around and think quickly on their feet as to what they could do in terms of making money.
yeah. There's been some impressive uh, pivoting and
Yeah,
turning around, and
yeah,
people thinking quite laterally. I think Brewdog
yeah.
moving to doing hand sanitizer was probably
Hand
one of the most
sanitizer,
natural
yeah.
that I saw. But lots of people have had to really dig in and think, well, what else can we? How could we utilize our existing skills, our customer base, client base, and it's probably
Yeah,
been good for a lot of people in some respects to actually really think about what their business does and how they do it, and
yeah,
are there other ways to diversify and maybe be a bit safer in the future?
yeah, yeah. We've done a similar thing. We offered a competition for any UK small business to have a free app.
Hmm.
So we entered the competition back in May, and one of the small businesses that won it was a nutritional company.
Oh,
So they
nice.
offer sort of programs for people with different nutritional needs. So we're currently making a free app for her at the minute, and that app will last until the end of the year. And then hopefully her business will pick up again, and she'll sort of want to continue with
Hmm.
us for next year. But it was a nice way for us to get our name out a little bit more,
Hmm.
give something back to other small businesses, and hopefully in turn, you know, we've got quite a few leads from other people that have entered the competition that are now asking about an app for themselves. So
Hmm. It's not, and it's nice for you guys being, still what I'd probably say is a startup, a couple of years in, and still small, working with other people that are, not big, huge businesses, because you've got a bit of empathy for each other, I think, if you're in
yeah,
respective situations.
yeah,
Hopefully people remember
yeah,
that. And a little while ago, you mentioned like networking and BNI and that kind of stuff. Is that something you'd done before setting up, or is that something you kind of chucked
No,
yourself into? And how have you
no,
found how
yeah,
have you found
yeah.
that then?
Kept ourselves into that. Um, it took me a while to get into it
Hmm.
because it was very self-promoting. It was very American.
Hmm.
So it took me a while to actually sort of break that wall down of like, okay, everyone's fine. They're all trying to do the same thing as everyone else in the room, which is promote their business, try and find other business for other companies. And the nice thing about BNI is that, it is about introducing one company to another. It's not just about yourself. We found some really good contacts in there, not just for business for ourselves, but for, maybe the design work that we needed to be done, or, other businesses. We even got a painter and decorator to do our house. But it's actually, just finding those nice local people. And once you've actually met the person, you've broken that barrier down, and, people buy from people. So
Hmm.
it's taken a while to get into that, and to make those sort of friendships and bonds. But, we've done quite well out of it in terms of finding some other similar partners to ourselves. One is a big website company, and they've actually got loads of clients that now want an app. So that, they're introducing us to them as well. But yeah, it's been challenging. I don't really like the early mornings. We found some nice lunchtime ones that suit me a lot better. Um, but yeah, it's been good. It's a different way of selling. It's a
Hmm.
different way of meeting people, to what I was used to in the corporate world. But yeah, it's been fun.
Do you attend any other organizations or events?
So we've done four networking. I've done Buzz, and BNI.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
And
mostly local ones in Oxfordshire.
no, nice. And how long ago did you start going into those? Was it long enough to meet enough people before all of this?
Uh, yeah, we've been doing it for about a year now.
Right.
So yeah,
How have you
luckily
found the transition to them? I assume they're all
going
online now.
online. Yes, yeah. So Colin does the BNI online at the minute. Um, but yeah, I think, obviously business is slow for a lot of them.
Hmm.
But like I said before, it is just about talking, and hearing about other ideas of businesses and how they're doing things differently, or how they've started selling new things, or offering new products or services, that actually then gives you the light bulb moment of maybe we should be doing this as well. Um, so yeah, I think doing it on Zoom every week is challenging, but again, it gives you something else to focus on rather than being at home all the time as well.
Hmm. It's hard. I think those things that if you already know the people within the group, and then it moves online, it's not so challenging. I think
Okay,
trying to
yeah,
come into something new like
yeah,
that, I'd imagine wouldn't be all that
yeah,
easy.
yeah. It's a bit too much, isn't
It's
it?
kind of suddenly a screen full of people, and it's kind of now your turn to dance. And
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
not so keen on that, thanks.
yeah.
It can
It's
be
that
quite nerve wracking.
first time you get told to stand up and talk about yourself for 60 seconds. You're like, oh. You're not prepared. You're just you're screwed.
You're prepared for the next time, though, right?
Yeah.
What do you think have been the biggest overall lessons that you've learnt so far?
Biggest overall lessons. Biggest overall lessons are that you've really got to know your market. We did a lot of research into the apps themselves, and what people are using apps for. Looking at business apps, obviously, and actually giving away lots of free information is really key. It sounds silly, really, to be giving away all this information that you should be charging for. But people uh, buy from people. Whether you've got great reviews for your business, um, it's it's really about understanding your market fully, and why giving away free information if you're a beauty salon at the minute and you're completely closed. Giving away information about how to take your nails off, or how to dye your own brows, or something like that. It's almost like, well, why are you giving this information over? Because they might not be coming back to you. But it's about that level of trust as well. you know, and keeping those customers loyal, because you're shouting out to your most loyal customers, hopefully, about, you know, what you could be doing in this lockdown, and hopefully how they'll be coming back to you once it's all open again.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's important. It's you got to give something to receive, and
Yeah,
you know, I think people probably think sometimes that by giving, like you say, giving it away, then why would they come to you? But they're still going to come to professionals, right? And people can
yeah,
still cook and they still go out for dinner, and I
yeah,
can clean my own house, but I'd
yeah,
rather pay someone else to do it. So you know, it's kind of there's lots of areas in life where you could do everything yourself, but you're just not going to, are you? At the end of the day, and
no,
I think people appreciate having, you know, somebody investing a bit of time into them, and then that gives them a good feeling about the business, and
yeah,
you are more likely to engage. It's a great way to engage with potential customers, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Anything you would have done differently or would do differently if you were going to do it again?
um, I think setting up sort of the business on the back end a little bit more, way before we'd actually started talking to clients, probably would have helped us a lot. You know, the first few times that we did, you know, bits on our website, it was like, oh god, that's shockingly bad. You know, so maybe having those stepping stones in place before would have been good. But at the same time, I think, you know, you can only plan so much,
Hmm.
because it was a new business and a new area for me in particular. Didn't really know exactly what I should be setting up. You know, you can learn from a you know, business what you should have been doing and what you shouldn't have
Hmm.
been doing. But for me, it was okay. Well, we went in, you know, head first, and we ran with it. And luckily, it you know, it was a great success with our first app. But you know, it would have been nice not to chase our tail all the time and have to go back to steps that we should have done right at the start. So maybe, yeah, having a few more things set in place before we'd actually sort of launch the business would have made ourselves look a bit better in terms of, you know, our professionalism. But you know, we've got there now within year two, and I think, you know, doing some things wrong isn't a bad thing. I think, you know, you learn from that a lot more than thinking you've done all the right things and holding your
Yeah.
head high. You know, you learn from your mistakes. So I don't regret anything, put it that way.
No, that's good, and I don't think you should, no matter what the mistake is. Really, I think you, like you say, the important part is learning from it, and also learning from the things that go well, because it's very easy to think, oh, this everything's just working. Whatever we're doing is working, and then suddenly you keep some point you might carry on doing the same things, and then suddenly it stops working, and you've got
Yeah,
no idea why it stopped working
yeah,
because you assumed that whatever you were doing was contributing, but it could just be in spite of, right? So I think it's
yeah,
very important to keep reviewing what you're doing. Did
yeah,
that actually have an effect or not?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, it's difficult. So, what's the process if somebody comes to you guys and says, "Hey, I think I want an app for my business." How do
Yeah.
you go about? What's the
Um,
cycle for that?
so first of all, we'd sit there and meet the client, hopefully face to face, and actually work out what the business is, because obviously, you know, it can be anything from a charity to a architect, etc. So it's really about, first of all, what you want the app to do. They've probably already got a website, but a website is for discovery for your business or your product or your service. But an app is for engagement and keeping those customers engaged. So we've really got to work out, first of all, what that app needs to be doing and what they want back from that app. If it's information, if it's more customer leads, if it's more sales, or if it's just an informational app.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll, you know, sit down and really work out what the key features need to be within that app, and then go through the design process with them if they've already got, you know, a feel for how they want it to look and run, um, and go from there. Really, it's a long process. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we thought it wouldn't take as long as it does, but you know, you need to sit there and actually really think about, you know, the everything from the colours to the designs to the font, and how you want it to flow for the customer, you know, and whether it needs input from the customer in terms of information, or if it, if it is just that informational app or a loyalty app. It can be quite simple, but you can have sort of 6 or 7 features on there, and each one you need to really go into and think about how you want that designed and how you want it to look for the customer.
And what kind of features can you include in these kind of apps? Can you do pretty much
Um,
anything?
there's a lot of features. So you can include things like obviously links to your website.
Hmm.
So if you want them to buy something or if you want them to order something, maybe if you're a restaurant, you can get customers to pre-order food. If you're a beauty salon, maybe you can get people to book products or services through it. Like I said before, one of the key features would be the loyalty points app. So you can
Hmm.
reward the customers for coming in to buy products from you or book a service or something like that. Reviews. Reviews would be really key, obviously, for any small business.
Yeah.
So you can prompt them to either review on the app, or if you want them to review on Facebook or TripAdvisor, depending on
Hmm.
your business. Um, and I suppose one of the key features is push notifications. So you
Hmm.
can send out through the back end of the app, you can send out messages to your customers. So you could message with a daily message about reminders of appointments or special offers or sales, whatever it may be, or a promotion of
Hmm.
some sort.
And that's,
Um,
I think that for that particular point is going to be huge, because
yeah,
email, although it's still very big at the moment, I mean, even the amount of emails I get on a daily basis that are
yeah,
trying to sell me something, and probably even more so the last couple of months while this has
yeah,
been on,
yeah,
um, I just delete. But
yeah,
I don't want to unsubscribe from everything, because there will
yeah,
be times where I do want to hear. But the challenge is it just gets lost in all of the noise.
yeah,
If you can
yeah,
move away from that
yeah,
and push notify, I think
yeah.
you really stand a chance of cutting through all of the noise.
Yeah. And also, you're hopefully targeting your main loyal customers,
Hmm.
um, because you can go onto social media now and have 10,000 followers, which is great, but you don't own any of that content. You don't own
Yeah.
the rights to contact that customer. And through the app, you can really directly target that customer about any of your offers or your promotions, etc. And that's really key, because you're actually talking to your core loyal business that is hopefully going to in turn come back and make money for you.
Hmm. And it would give you you could really control the kind of offers to, subgroups, I suppose, of
Yeah,
your client base. So
yeah,
you can have, tiers, I guess, of loyalty and all of that stuff. And I think
yeah,
that's where it really differentiates itself.
yes, yeah, definitely.
And can you then integrate external things like, I don't know, book a table and that kind of stuff? Is it possible to
Yeah,
do all of that?
yeah, book a table or even Mailchimp. Once you've
Hmm.
got a certain amount of customers subscribed onto the app, then you've got the rights, within the terms and conditions to
Hmm.
contact them. So yeah, there's multiple different plugins that you can do within the app itself, depending on what you need to do.
It sounds super flexible. So how have you managed to make it cost effective, I guess, for the small businesses?
Obviously there's only 2 of us, so
Hmm.
we're not in a big expensive office in London. Paying lots of students to
Hmm.
design these apps. When we are working on a project, there was only the 2 of us working on that sole project at that time. We're not going to be taking on multiple clients
Hmm.
at any one time. Um, and the progressive web app, as I spoke about before, enables you to have a real life app,
Hmm.
but you're not then paying Apple and Android a silly amount of money each year to keep it on their app stores. And we're not being cheeky within our prices. We're
Hmm.
actually being sort of nice to small businesses, and we're understanding from the small business point of view ourselves, that money isn't easily come by at the minute, so we're not going to be charging extortionate prices. So we're just trying to be fair within our prices, and competitive within ourselves.
Does it allow you to effectively, you only got to create one version because it's web based rather than having to create
Yeah,
a Google Play, an Android version and a iOS version.
yes, yeah. So it's a much simpler way of doing it because you don't have to comply with all the different screen
Hmm.
sizes. And also then you can do it on the iPads or tablets, and you can even actually view it on the laptop itself as well, which is, again, it helps for a small business
Yeah.
because more people may be looking at it and viewing at it from a laptop or a desktop.
And also a customer experience point of view, because quite often the customer experience between an Android and an iOS app can be quite different, because
Yeah,
obviously Apple have greater restrictions as to what they'll allow your app to access within the device and make default and all the rest of it. So many times, businesses that I've been in where there's been apps, you kind of, oh, they've got this great feature, but it's only available on Android.
yeah,
Do you know? You can't have it on Apple. And they think,
yeah,
well, if you've got a customer base, assume you've even got 50-50,
yeah,
half your customers are going to get one experience and the other half are going to get the other. So it
yeah,
seems to make a whole lot of sense, particularly for these kind of transactional apps, to move more, device agnostic.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And if you're a restaurant and you're trying to change that app because you've got
Hmm.
new products on there, or new menus or new prices, you're going to completely screw up your market for your
Yeah.
customers if you've got the wrong prices on there, and ultimately lose money. So it's really key that you've got that control, that it can be done pretty instantly on a progressive web app.
That's true, actually, for a lot of the businesses that, like you
Yeah,
mentioned before.
yeah,
Things do change on a regular basis, in restaurants, hair salons, or any kind of service kind of business. You
yeah,
don't keep your prices the same for 2 years. So yeah, you
no,
do need that flexibility, and it's probably been a barrier for a lot of people, is not only the cost but the lack of flexibility.
yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously now so many Just Eats and Deliveroo
Mhm.
and places like that, that a lot of the local restaurants go to. But then you're actually giving away 15% of your profit
Yeah.
to Deliveroo or Just Eat. So not only are you losing out because you don't actually retain that customer data, you don't know who's ordering from you. It's
Hmm.
just coming through from
That's
a
true.
generated um, you know database. You're losing 15%, and you're not finding out who your actual customers are.
Hmm.
And that's really key. So one of the the great features of having your own app is that you actually have that customer data, so you can be marketing to them, to keep them loyal and coming back time and time again.
Yeah, that has definitely been the price of convenience on small businesses.
Mm,
Working with Amazon and Deliveroo and Just Eat and any of those kind of over the top type providers, has
yeah,
been that you basically just hand over all of the customer information, the valuable stuff. The reason they're in business
yeah,
is because
yeah,
they've taken the customer data, and if you don't have that customer data, it
yeah,
becomes very difficult to know what you're doing. Whether is it working, is it not working, what do
yeah,
my customers think? All you just know is that one day they disappear, and you've got no idea, no idea why. Keeping hold of
yeah,
that information is essential, I think.
yeah. And that could be one bad review as well.
Yeah.
You don't have the chance to reply to that review on things like Deliveroo or Just Eat.
Mhm.
And the nice thing is, if you do have your own app, you can.
Yeah, and you do create that personal relationship, which I think,
Yeah,
particularly for the smaller business, you wanting to grow, you need to create. That's a differentiator, isn't it? Why would you go to a small business versus over, one of the larger
yeah,
organizations? And it's
yeah,
because of that. You've got someone, it's their business, and they care, rather
yeah,
than it just being someone being paid to provide the service, and they don't really, half the time they don't really
yeah.
care whether you've had a good experience or not.
No.
The owner does. Do you know? It's tough.
Yeah,
So where can people find out more, if they've listened to this and thought, oh,
yeah.
I could do with an app?
So you can go onto our website, which is el6apps.com. All of our contact details are on there. And we will come back to you at any point, from Monday to Friday. I don't even know our number, to be honest. That's really bad, isn't it?
Who does these
Put it
days?
on at the end.
Yeah. Who does?
It's been so long. But yeah, through our website.
Well, thank you very much for giving it your time to come and talk to me.
Thank you very much.
And we'll make sure I've got links to the website and contact details when I put this out, so everyone can find you.
Brilliant. Cool.
Lovely.
Thank you, Dave.
Lovely.
All
Cheers,
right.
Lianne. Thanks. Bye.